A little bit. Doggy door right over there. There you go. Alright, we got some more goodies for Jack Black today. Well, yesterday. So, we finally got the flip kit. This is the actual flip kit. Right now we just have these saddles cut off and flipped around to the... just got a face full of sleeve. We just got the stock saddles cut off the top of the axle and they're sitting below so that we can just move the truck around. That's kind of why the wheel sits funny and the wheel well wide so far ahead. And then once we get the pinion angle figured out where we want that, we'll do a little bead so that it doesn't slip in there. And then for mounting the shocks, these are from QA1. I'll have the links for everything in the description below. This bracket I'm going to weld to the axle housing, and then this one you can bolt it wherever you need the height for the shock. It comes with all the hardware and the upper shock mounts that we will weld to the top crossbar. And then for the shocks, just went with some relatively cheap competition engineering shocks. They're three-way adjustable. You have to push the shock in and then turn it clockwise, counterclockwise, whichever way to adjust it. You do have to pull them off the vehicle, which sucks. In our case, that shouldn't be too big of a deal since we have the hole in the bed. They have three different ratios. There's 50-50, 40-60, and 30-70. We're probably gonna go with 50-50 for now and see how the truck likes it, how it reacts to things. Just testing and tuning. So today we're just gonna focus on the rear of the suspension and then, or the rear suspension. And then probably in the next video we might start tackling the front. Did get some Moroso trick springs. They're in the box right here. 47-170 is the part number that we went with. And then these are just some Summit adjustable drag shocks. I was gonna go with Summit for the back too, because they're like 37 bucks for all their shocks, but I didn't find the height that I needed, so I splurged a little bit and went with these. I think these were about 55 bucks a piece. So, should be good. Now it's just a matter of probably start with the flip kit, get the axle where we want it, and then we can figure out where we want the shocks. The height of the frame doesn't change too much with the bed off. I think it's like 3/4 of an inch. That's not going to be enough to affect where we want the shocks mounted. So we'll still be able to get it all mocked up with the bed off. And then we should be good there. I guess he's already ahead of the curve. Let's get to work. A little bit. Shit. Situation report. We got the new flip kit in there, kind of mocked up, sitting in place, and neither of us really like it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this top part off and then reuse the old setup that clamps on top and then has the U-bolts coming up. This will work with the like slapper style traction bars. If you go with like Caltrax or anything like that, I'm pretty sure all the U-bolts have to go down so that you can bolt their plate to it. This is just gonna be easier for the way we're gonna set things up. So right now we're just mocking up everything in place, getting the axle where it needs to sit, and then we're going to use that position to mark where the new shock mounts need to go, and then we're going to pull the axle out, clean up the axle a little bit, get everything welded, and then put it all back together and put the new shocks in and everything. I don't know if I have to say this, but I'm gonna. Don't go too far.
Yep. Sparks all over the fuel tank.
I was getting that too. Gonna have to do a bunch of measuring. Gotta get the axle kind of bolted in place and then drop it on its own weight, measure the angle that the transmission's at, do the opposite angle for the rear end. Because if the transmission's on like a 4-degree down, you want the rear end on a 4-degree up. That way the U-joints are spinning at the same speed. If they're not, you'll wear them out pretty quickly. Alright, those tabs got to get trimmed a little bit more when we put the plate on it. The hole's too big for the axle housing, so a little bit more. Basically going to take it, cut the tab completely off.
I just want to cut them off the torque.
You could. Yeah, if you wanna torch them, I'll hold them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an axle. I should be safe.
A video camera converts the picture into a television signal.
Dang man, those are some pretty clean welds. Got a nice weave going on. I didn't know you could TIG weld. All right, let's try this for the third time. All right, so the new pickle that we're in is the new saddles set the axle back a little bit so that it's centered in the wheel well, because the leaf spring's kind of on an angle. So, I mean,
Shit don't work.
right. So the leaf spring's kind of like this, right? So the axle's here. When you flip it, it moves it ahead that bit. You get what I'm saying? Cool. Now, when we flipped everything, the stock U-bolts fit where they're supposed to be, but now that the saddle is back, everything's getting all fucked up. Basically, we are gonna use the new kit, force it together. We're having a hell of a day. All right, Captain Inferno took off to go haul a Jeep. I got the flip kit in, everything's sitting on its own weight. So now I have to get under it, measure the angle that the transmission's at, match up the rear end angle to that. And I can also figure out where the shock mounts are gonna go, and then once I get that figured out, I'll pull the axle out, clean everything up, get that all welded in place. I'll probably tack it while it's there just so I can make sure everything's gonna be good, and then I'll pull the axle out so that I can get a good bead on everything. But it's starting to come along, making some pretty good progress. To fix the axle housing, I'm not gonna get into that. I'll probably find something to put a little bit of weight on the rear end so that it's closer to actual ride height, and then I'll set that. Probably tack the saddles to the axle so I can get those welded up once the axle's out too. Alright, that sucked, but it's about 2.7 degrees. We'll call it 3, but at least now we know where to put the rear end.
Alright, let's see where you were at. Alright, so it's got to go up pretty good bit. Now I didn't completely tighten the U-bolt, so it should still have a little bit of play available in it. Still have a little more to go. The problem is the edges of the phone aren't perfectly flat. 2.4, 2.5. I'm gonna call that good enough.
Now I'm not measuring off like the perfect surface for this, but if we can at least get it pretty close, that's good enough for me. Now the transmission was 2.6, 2.7, rear end's about 2.5. A little bit of rocking on the phone here and there, so they're not gonna be super precise, but like I said, I think they're good enough. Let me throw this strap in there before I forget, because I will forget. Now, like I said, I'm just gonna tack the saddles in place so they don't move, so the axle stays where it needs to be. And then I'm gonna start figuring out where to put the shock mounts. Alright, got the shock mounts all tacked in place. Everything's looking pretty good there. So we're about ready to pull the axle out and finish weld all those and the saddles. I think it's going to be pretty nice. And the shocks are at about 65-70% compressed right now. So once the bed's on, it'll be about 60-65. I think we're doing good. All right, it took most of the day. All right, it took pretty much most of the day, but we got the rear suspension. But we got the rear suspension like 99% done. Shock mounts welded in, new shocks in.
Okay.
You gonna make it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that in, so I'm just gonna explain. I'm just gonna explain why he's laughing at me. The battery died in the camera, so I'm redoing all this, and the battery's about to die in this camera too. All right, let's make it quick. Rear suspensions all complete. Just need limiting straps and maybe some traction bars. Everything's looking good. Shocks are about 60 or so percent compressed, so we'll have plenty of travel both ways. They're set at 50-50 right now. Everything's looking good. Axle's still at 2 point whatever degrees it was. He's running some new brake lines, and then we'll be pretty much done with the rear of the truck. And then in the next video, we'll throw in the front springs and shocks and see where the ride height is then. Figure out if we need to cut some coils or order some drop spindles. But before the battery dies, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time.